start streaming. Okay. All right. I think we're good. Please tell me if you can hear me. Okay. I'm recording and streaming at the same time. So this is, I typically do Zoom, and this time I'm going to do this Facebook Live event. So I'm going to try it out. Can you guys see me okay? There's probably a big lag, so hopefully public view. Loud and clear. Awesome. Thank you, Brian. Okay. So let's get started here. All right. So let's get OBS up here. Switch over to screen. All right. Sounds good. Thanks for joining me, you guys, on this nice Friday. There's snow outside. There's snow. I live in Utah. Spring. I saw a meme saying, go home, spring, you're drunk. Something like that. Because it's like snowing. Anyway, it should melt off by this afternoon. Anyway, so welcome, guys. We're going to talk about some hair, some stylized hair today. And I don't know much about hair, like Sean. I'm pretty hairless up here. So, I talked about stylized hair in the course, but I think I need to go a little deeper in there, and because I kind of lightly went over it, and I showed you how to use the Dylan Ekron hairbrush, which is what we used on Kate, and a lot of you are kind of, you're struggling with it, and I want to show you kind of how to rein it in. So let's talk about, we're going to talk about hairstyles first, and what does it mean to have stylized hair? Okay, I'm going to hide my face for a moment. Screen only? No. Okay, hold on a second. We can edit this out, right? Okay, and my logo. Where is my logo? Sorry, sometimes, there we go. Logo, go away. Okay, so here we are. This is my Pinterest page. You can go to this Pinterest page right now. I've just started to put it together, and I've started to collect samples of good stylized hair in different levels of detail. Okay, so here is a page with just some of my favorite stylized sculpted hairstyles. Okay, and you'll notice one of them is from one of our students here. So and that one is pretty detailed, and then you can go all the way from just big clumps all the way to highly detailed, even film. We're not going to go over film hair, like using, hair generators or anything like that. So yeah, Sean, I've seen your beard, man. Birds can live in that thing. Okay, so let's look at this tracer really quick. This really stylized tracer. It's fantastic because it's just these blocked out shapes, but you notice that they all have direction and variety and interest. So we talk about those different shapes and keeping variety. Don't make all of your shapes the same size. Now they're similar, but they're different enough to have interest. Okay, I actually have this little figure. It's great. And then like the next level, you can see like this one. This one is also made, I wish it wouldn't go dark when I hovered over this, but this one is also made of big clumps. And this is just made with spheres that you stretch into place. You just put a sphere in there and you just stretch it into place. It's really not that difficult. This is probably the easiest hairstyle. This is one hairstyle above like a Lego helmet head. You know what I mean? Just like a big block out. If you just want to stick with your block out head, that's totally fine. But that's kind of like the lowest common denominator hairstyle is just the hair helmet, right? And then this is kind of the next level. The next level of detail is what I'm talking about. And that's where you take actual spheres and you stretch them out. And one thing you'll notice, though, with these hairstyles is they always generate from somewhere and end somewhere. And they always are clumped unless there are flyaway hairs, which is what I call those. And that's kind of what she has going on here, are flyaway hairs. And like this guy, he has a couple flyaway hairs. But if you notice this hairstyle, it generates from, like hair follicles. You have to think about, where is this hair growing from? It's coming from your head and growing out like grass or something. I noticed that a lot of students, they're not thinking about where the hair is growing from and then where it's going to part and split and fall. Kind of like this kid right here. You can't really see this one could be better, actually. Let me see if I can zoom in. Probably not. That's taking me to a different page. And I'm school. Okay, so anyway, the hair could resolve from a point better than it is right now. Okay, so let me find a good example. Okay, here we go. Whoops, not save. I already have it saved. Let's check this one out. Okay, so you can see where her part is. It's kind of generating from the part. That's where it needs to come away from. This one's even better. Look at this one. So this one actually looks like the hair is growing out of the head. And then it typically is more detailed where it originates from, which is, like this. I mean, look at this Rapunzel. You can start to see how this hair generates from her head, and then as it kind of cascades down, it gets lighter and lighter. And like, I think this is a less effective result, because it's all of these lines are very parallel, very even, very similar, and there's there's the interest isn't there. I kind of wish there was detail near the part, and then it kind of came, simplified as it came out. And this is really nice. This is really nice. But right through here, in my opinion, it could be better. So let's see. Let's go back and look at some of these. And you can see this one is great because there's lots of variety, and it looks like it's actually coming out of his head, right? So that's like the key thing you have to think about is, where is it going to originate? Where is it going to go? And how are you going to finish it? Where is it going to end? Okay, so and I love this this Malfoy. This is really, really good. So it loses a little bit in the sides, but right here is fantastic. Okay, and then there are different levels of detail. So like this one is extremely detailed. I'm sure this one took the person a long time to actually reach that level of detail. But you can see that there's actually a place where the hair generates from, how it flows, how it cascades, and where it ends. And kind of, you have to think about the silhouette and the weight. The hair is almost like a character unto itself, or it can be. And just like the hands, how you can spend a lot of time on the hands alone because they're so detailed and complex that they're a character into themselves, just like hair is. So anyway, if you look at, this one's also really good. There's another thing you can do, and that is break it up into pieces. Okay, break it up into sections, I guess, and because that'll help you kind of compartmentalize the different structures in the hair. For example, this one right here. This one has three separations, okay? There is the bangs. This is one piece, and it's originating from the part. Then there's the section where it kind of is all, laying down on her head and has some weight. That's like section 2. And then there's the bun, and that's section 3. And typically there's like, 3 sections that you really think about. And if you look at like Kate, she has 2 sections. So you can think of these 2 parts as one section, and then the back area as a second section. Because she has this hairband that's kind of separating those 2 out. But if she had bangs, that would be kind of section 3, if you can think about that. And not all characters have their hair into different sections, but you can think about it that way. You know, think about like Danny Mac has a fantastic hair tutorial. If you ever have watched that, that's really good. But Danny takes his hair to a much higher detail level like this. But you'll notice that if you squint your eyes and you kind of look at the base shapes, you could make these curls just extremely simple, like it's one big curl. Then all of the interior strands they just kind of add to what's going on. Then you add the flyaway hairs that just kind of add interest and just pull them out like that. And Danny also has a hairbrush, I believe, and it's very similar to Dylan Ekron's brush. And hey, how's it going? Let's see. So this one's really complex because it has a lot of hairpins and all sorts of stuff. And this is like the next level after you get, you know, really comfortable with making hair. But even realistic hair like this one from Guz, he still has those clumps, right? Those big sections, and it still is originating from somewhere and it's ending somewhere. So it's not just slabs. I can't emphasize enough that it's not just let's just throw the shapes on there and not think about like where they're going to and from. Let me see here. Let's go back. Okay, so I kind of want to show you. Oh, here's a good example. So see how this is broken up into 3 sections. So like the pink section, the green section, and the blue section. And this is a really good kind of example of how to break it up and how to think about it. Also, my art director at Disney, he was adamant about really focusing on the hair that is around the face, that is surrounding the face, and that is making that face shape. So when you're looking at a concept and then you're looking at your 3D sculpt, you really want to compare and contrast and make sure your face is getting framed properly. And then the bangs, and then those 2 areas, like say this one, this green area and the pink area, the pink would be the most important, the green would be the second most important, and then the orange would be less. So kind of like Corinne did, she started having all this detail in the back. And one of my suggestions was, you know, just simplify the back of that hair. It's calling too much attention to itself. But you can have a bit more detail in the bangs and in these green sections here, because it's kind of where the detail is, and it's where you want to draw the eye of the viewer, is around the face. So the Kate that I have, you can also have it kind of even all the way around the head, but just don't have it so there's more detail in the back than there is in the front. So, you know, I have a few extra hairs up here, and it's a little looser and simplified back here. So that's kind of what I'm talking about when I'm saying, you know, more detail up front, less detail in the back. So that's another thing to think about. And then you saw in the course how I made this one. Let me switch to my standard. Hi. So we watched in the course how I made this one, and I essentially blocked out her hair like a helmet, you know, just a big sphere and then 2 small spheres. And I have that, and you'll see how kind of crappy it looks. It's not the best. But you can see how I have just these big blocked in things. And I even started to cut in the flow a little bit just to give myself an idea of how it was going to be. And you'll see that the before and after are huge. You know, this one, it's completely lacking volume, and, you know, it's just kind of there. So you always have to start somewhere, So give yourself a place to start somehow. And I typically will do that with a blockout. Okay, so the about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, I ran across a new hairbrush. If you guys have been following along with me as I stream on Tuesday nights on the ZBrush Pixelogic channel on Twitch, you might have seen me make the girl with pink hair. I don't know if let me just see if I can pull it up really quick. Anyway, I was struggling with her hair during that stream. It was kind of embarrassing a little bit because I started with Dylan's hairbrush and I started blocking it in, and then halfway through I just kind of threw my hands up in the air and I'm like, I can't get this. I'm deep in the valley of the suck and I can't figure out this hair. It's just not working. And then I can't remember if somebody suggested it. I think so. I think somebody suggested it to me that I go and grab that brush and try it. And the brush that I found, hold on one second, I'm going to edit this part out of the video. Okay. So let me see if I can find the pink-haired girl and I can show you the kind of the before and after a little bit. Okay, here we go. Okay, it's paused. So let me pull this down so you can see it. There we go. So you can see I was actually trying those brushes from the gosh, I can't remember what the names, like the mag brushes, MAG brushes, and you can see those mag brushes work in two parts. Okay, you can see this horrible block out that I have. Yep, live and unedited. Okay, so you can kind of see the block out that I made, and then I'm laying this. This brush comes in two parts. It has two strands. It has one strand that has poly groups already laid out, and it's like every other poly loop is a color. Then the second part is you make curves from the poly groups, which will make these lines, and then you run a whole bunch of hairs down the length of that hair. And I can show you how to do that really quick. Okay, I have those brushes loaded and I'll show you how to do it. So see this mag hair clump and mag hair detail. So what I was doing is I was drawing the hair like this. Okay, let me turn on polygroup so you can see it. And this is essentially what it creates. It creates a strand like this that has the polygroups. Now, I'm going to tell you something about this curve brush, a few different things on how it works. So once you draw a curve, you can see the front, you can see the back, and you can drag it around like this. Or you can redraw it. You can just do whatever you want with it. And the smaller the brush, the smaller the curve, like the little dots. So the more detailed the curves will be. Okay, and you can come in the middle and kind of mess with it, but it's really uneditable. It's hard to enjoy. You know, it's hard to get it to do what you want. So typically, I will just draw the curve as close as I possibly can. I won't touch it. Then I will commit it. And how you commit it is just by tapping on the surface, and you'll see the curve go away. Now I can get in there and I can edit it, just like with my normal brushes and stuff like that. But I want to show you some other things. Do I want to show you with this brush? I'll show you with the next one, because this one is already tapered. See how it tapers from thick to thin? Sometimes you'll get it tapering from thin to thick, and that's not what you want, and you have to go in and edit it. And I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. So yeah, XM Studios. Thank you, Marquise. Okay, XM Studios. And those guys are fantastic, and they do wonderful, wonderful hair. But the detail level on that hair is quite extreme. It's like the highest level you can get to 3D print it without doing some kind of a you know, like a movie hair, like some hair generator. So that's like the most detailed stylized hair that I would ever take it to do with print. But if you ever see their statues, they're quite realistic. I mean, they're stylized barely, but they are quite realistic. So I prefer thicker strands and less detail. Okay, so now that I have this in place, let me draw it one more time, a little bit bigger. Okay, now another thing you can do with this is if your brush is blue, you're going to be editing the curve. Okay, if you come out here and your brush is red and you resize your brush and then you come back here and click on the curve, it's going to resize that strand. So that's something you have to be careful of when you're going back and forth. And it's also something you can use to your advantage, because say you like the curve but you don't like the size. A lot of times I will actually come in here and draw out the curve with a smaller brush so I can get more detail. Then I will make my brush bigger over here and then tap on the curve, and it'll keep that same line. Okay, so I'll do that sometimes. Now I'm going to commit this and I'm going to show you what happens when I come up to stroke and curve. Let's see, curve functions. Okay, and then there's this curve function called frame mesh. If you tap on that, it's going to run curves between the polygroups. Okay, now what you can do is grab that second brush, the detail brush right here, and then you tap on one of these curves and it fills it with hairs. So they're too big, so I'm going to come over here and make my brush much smaller and tap on the curves again. And that is kind of how the XM Studio's curve brush works. Okay, so it can get crazy really fast, like high detailed really fast, but this is how they get all of those little hairs all to flow together all at once. That's kind of their trick. Okay, so that's one of the things. And you know, you wouldn't leave your hair strand open like that or whatever. I'm just kind of showing you an example of how it works. Okay, so I was using that brush and I was struggling, and then you've seen me use the Dylan Ekron brush, which is here, and this is really nice because it comes in strands. It comes in individual strands, and I never dynamesh them together. I shouldn't say never. I rarely dynamesh them together. It depends on the look that you're going for. If you're going for something where the hairs look separated at the bottom and then they kind of come together at the top and they lose the definition of the line in between the hairs, that's when you would need to dynamesh it and then smooth those transitions out. But if you do that, make sure you duplicate your hair strands into a separate subtool and then dynamesh that, because you don't want to destroy your workflow if you're say your art director or somebody, if they ever want to direct you and say, hey, this hair isn't working, you need to flow it this way, or these strands are too small, or whatever. You want to keep it editable. Okay, so make sure you, anytime you dynamesh, you want to duplicate your objects before you dynamesh. Okay, because dynamesh is something you can't come back from. Okay, so on this one, you'll also notice that I try and end all of these into a point, kind of into I try and keep these in a clump together, and they're not a bunch of strands that are loose. Okay, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. If I turn on move elastic with topological, I can start to move these hairs. Hold on a second. It's not working how I typically. There we go. Move elastic is kind of fun to use with hair, but what I'm saying is I typically don't leave these away from each other like that. They kind of work like fingers. You want to close the gaps so you can't see through the hairs unless it's intentional. So if we go back and look at these, you can see for the most part you can't see through the hair, okay, unless, like this one, it's intentional. Okay, like there's some flyaway bits here, and like this one's intentional. You can see one strand, you can see through it, but most of the time you'll have it solid. The hair is solid. You can't really see through it unless it's like completely realistic hair, and you know, that's the only real time you could see through, you know, the back of someone's hair. So, but typically, just kind of a rule of thumb, keep your hair together so you can't see through it, unless you work it down to the ends, and you'll typically kind of start to separate down at the ends. But one of the things you need to be cautious of, and it's something that Scott was just asking me yesterday, is if you end your hair with a whole bunch of little tips hanging out, then, and Corinne ran into this too, you're going to have to retop that if you're going to make a game character out of it. So work smarter, not harder, and try to end your hair into something that you can retop when you're done. So if you have like 1 or 2 flyaways that are just kind of like, you know, maybe this guy is a little more separate, you're going to have to retop that as a separate piece after you've retopped the entire thing. That's going to have to be, you know, you're going to have to figure it out. So it's better if you keep them together in big old clumps that you can retopologize at the end. So just kind of be aware of that when you're creating your hair. Okay. So now I'm going to get into the brush that I ended up finding, and that somebody showed me how to use, and that is the Funky Bunnies brush. I love. It's just Chris Whitaker, a friend of mine named Chris Whitaker. He does some fantastic stylized females. I'm going to show you his stuff really quick. I think I actually have a link to it already. There it is. Okay. Let's just go here. And if you look at his gallery, the name of the site is funkybunnies3d.com. Okay. So if you go there, this is his website, and you can see some of the amazing stylized females that he's done. I mean, look at that hair. It's really, really good. Okay. And yeah, just I got to show you one more. Just some fantastic stuff. Then my friend Benjamin Hale, he's actually from Utah. He made this brush, and then Chris took it and tweaked it a little bit and then put it up on his website. So if you go to Tools, and then you come down here to ZBrushes. I also got permission to include it in the resource section of the course. I just haven't got it there yet. I'm going to put it up there. Anyway, it's right here. It's called Ben Macon Hale's Awesome Hair Curve Brush. So it's Macon Curve Brush. Okay, so here it's right here, and these are all the parts and pieces to it. And then there's also some other great brushes that you could grab if you want to, like this curve brush of curly hair, and then this really cool eyelash brush, and these buttons. And then this is for even more simplified hair, like say Dragon Ball Z hair or something like that. That's very, very simplified and big shapes, kind of like that tracer hair. This is something you could use for that. It's like square tubes. Anyway, I'm going to be talking about this one right here, because it is super, super cool. And it's kind of like, if I had to do it again, I might have used this brush instead of Dylan's brush. The reason I was kind of standoffish about it at first is because, unlike Dylan's brush, the strands are connected. So let's go ahead and pull it up really quick. So it's right here, Macon Hairbrush, and you'll see them all right here. And with Dylan's brush, like I said, the hairs are apart, so you can edit each strand individually. And that's really, really good if you want to get down into the details and start to shape it a lot. But the problem with Dylan's hair is the ends, you have to really get in there and like smooth them, and sometimes they don't look the best. The ends don't look the best. And you'll notice with these strands, they have tips. So they have like the strands end. They start and they end. So let me draw a couple so you can see them. Hey Ambra, how you doing? No worries. Okay, oh, this is multiple subdivision. So let's go back to my ugly blockout. Okay, and we're just gonna draw one of the strands just like we would draw the MD brush on here. And you'll see that it goes from thin to thick this time instead of thick to thin. So I'm gonna show you how to change that. So I'm going to undo that, and if you go into the stroke palette and then you go to curve modifiers, there's a curve fall off window right here. It's kind of small, but you click on that and it'll open up like this. Okay, so this is the beginning of the strand and this is the end of the strand. And the way this Benjamin Hale brush works is you kind of want to just keep it the same width the entire length. Okay, so if you just pull up that second dot so it's level, here, let me show you one more time. So just pull up this so it's the same thickness all the way across. Or you could even, like, you know, bring this one down and kind of, you know, put it halfway on both sides. So then when you do your strand, it's the same thickness throughout. And it's kind of hard to see because sometimes the curve does not want to stick to the surface. But you can kind of see how this strand is working. So it has 3 strands in one, 2 small ones and a thick one, and they are combined, so you cannot pull them apart. So it's kind of it's good and bad. You know, Dylan's brush is good because you can actually pull the strands apart, but this one is good because then you won't be tempted to pull the strands apart and let some air through there where you don't want it to be. Okay, so another thing you could do, if you do want it to go from thin to thick, okay, you can adjust that stroke to be the opposite way. So you can go like this. I think that's right. Nope, opposite. Okay. So you can go from thin to thick. So this is the start and this is the end. Like that. So it depends on, you know, what kind of hairstyle you want, how you want it to look. But typically I just like to do it myself afterwards with a brush. So I will just even it out and just keep it even through there. Good enough. Okay. So I don't know why it's embedding, but just keep drawing it over and over again until you get what you want. And this works the same way as far as you can't, gosh, I don't know why it's not sticking to the surface. Draw it slower. No, it doesn't matter. Just some of the frustrations. And then if you draw it short, you can actually continue the line. Let me zoom in here. Let's do it one more time. Thanks, ZBrush. Okay, there's the curve. So if you come off of it, so if you start with the green, you're actually going to drag the curve like this. Okay, like drag it. Looks like a snake. Okay, but if you come in close to the green but not all the way, you can see this little red line. It's kind of hard to see, but that will allow you to continue the curve and make it longer, like that. So anyway, that's just the way you can edit the curves. And you can also make the beginning curve kind of stick. That's another thing you can do is I can't remember where it is. Curve functions. Lock start and lock end. So you can lock the start, and then when you try and pull it like this, the beginning of that curve is actually locked in place. And you can twist these things too and just go crazy with them, but sometimes it helps with editing and other times it doesn't. I usually don't turn that on, but some people like it. So anyway, when you like where it's kind of at, and it doesn't have to be perfect, it just needs to be kind of in the general area, then you can come out here and change your brush size and click back on here if you want it a little bit bigger. Okay, and then that's close enough. Okay, that's close enough for me. So I'm just going to tap on the surface of my object and commit it. And then what I like to do is I like to hide the block out. So it looks like I was drawing it as part of this one. So, and that's okay. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to hide that block out. And then what you can do is you can separate by mask. So see, this back part is masked and this part is not. So you can just pull up the menu and just say split unmask points. And what that's going to do is that's going to put this new strand into its own subtool. Then you can see that I've selected this back blockout piece. you can just hit the down arrow after you've done that, and then it just goes down the subtool list and picks the new strand. Okay, and you can see that this is in 3 polygroup parts. I don't want that. I just want 1 polygroup part in case I turn on topological, because if I turn on topological, or say mask by polygroup, if I crank this up and I grab my move brush, it's only going to affect the polygroup that I first start with. I don't know why it's not working. There it goes. So see how it's not affecting this bottom piece. It's affecting the first line, but not the next one. Okay, so what I want to do is just hit auto group, and that'll make this entire thing one group. Really easy. Now, you can either use any of these 3 move brushes, okay? You can use the regular move brush, which works great. You know, just, you know how the move brush works, and you can start to move it into place like this. Okay, but then you can use the move elastic brush, and that works further down the strand. So it affects more of the strand. See that? And it's kind of rubber bandy. So it feels kind of different, and I use this brush when I'm like moving strands around or clumps of strands around, you know, just kind of getting into the fine little details, and it keeps your flow. It doesn't add kind of whoop-de-doos through the hair, you know. So like I could take this and kind of bring it out, and I also like to use it to make things whiter. So, you know, I'm keeping this small up here. That's why I don't really use the stroke, you know, go from thin to thick with the stroke. I would rather do it by hand with the actual brushes, if that makes sense. Okay, so, and this is a part where, like I said, it needs to originate from somewhere, which is in the head, right? And you'll see that these strands are just kind of floating up here and not really originating from anywhere. They're just kind of stuck on there. And the best way to push these down into the head is using the snake hook brush. And I don't know why it comes with the RGB turned on here, but make sure you turn RGB off of the snake hook brush, or you're going to be painting colors on there while you move it around. But the snake hook brush is really nice because it is like a move brush. It's like move plus, right? So it moves things, and it kind of starts to bend things as you move them around. So you can, I kind of go back and forth like this, and I kind of start to create, let me hide this other stuff here. We're going to make her bald, but keep that hairband. Okay, so, and you can just kind of squish these in back and forth to get them even smaller, and then push them down into the head like this. And what's cool about this Benjamin Hale brush is that since it has 3 clumps like this, you can edit all 3 strands at the same time. But you want to be careful. You want to not use smooth if you can help it, because it has built-in support loops, which means if I turn on dynamic subdivision, I just hit D to turn on dynamic subdivision, then I'm going to hide. See, look how beautiful those are. Those are super nice with nice creases and really nice ends. See how they end? I really like that a lot. But if you smooth it out like this, all that stuff goes away because it has support curves going down the length of it. So just be super cautious when you're moving these hairs around, and when you use move and stuff like that, just try not to put kinks in it as you're working those strands. Otherwise, you're going to lose your detail like that. And if that's the look you're going for, a smoother hair, then do it, you know. Okay, so with that in mind, we're just going to come with the snake hook brush and just kind of make that curve dip down right into the head like that, while trying to avoid this this hairband. Okay, hairband reminds me of like Poison or something. Van Halen. Okay, I guess Van Halen's not a hair band. Anyway, so one thing you can do too is, I really want to push that down into the head. Okay. Now, say you don't have enough detail right here to hold that curve. I'm going to turn dynamic off, turn polygroups back on. Whoops. Okay. So see how this is kind of getting low on subdivision levels? One thing you can do is you can use the Z modeler right here, and you can cut in more detail, like do an insert edge loop, and you'll have to be careful because it doesn't keep that continued curve going around, but it'll give you more geometry to then start to play with, and just kind of go in there by hand and just rework that curve so it's, and I'm just using just little, sound like Bob Ross, I'm just using little strokes like that. Okay, so then I'll turn on dynamic again, and it just gives you a smoother, cleaner bend. Okay, so yeah, this hairbrush is amazing. Super cool. Super cool, super cool. Hey, what's up, Scott? All right. And then, yeah, just with that, so if it's too coming out too high, too hot, it's really nice to just kind of turn it on that way. All right, so let's turn on the block out again, the block out shapes. See that? So I got 3 strands just like that, and all the strands aren't overlapping and competing with each other, and it gives me nice ends on the ends, and it's very printer friendly. So I could print this on a 3D printer, and it's not going to give me grief. It's not going to give me hollowed out areas or holes or any of that kind of business. Okay, so yep, happy little strokes. Okay, now if you look at that hairbrush, you can see you have lots of options here. So if you want those flyaway hairs, you can just grab a thick single or a flat single, either one of those, and then just kind of get a small brush and just kind of draw it down there, and it's embedded in here. We know it's in there. So I'm just going to commit it. Then I'm going to split unmask points, hit my down arrow, and then solo it. And there it is. It's a little twisted, so we might have to edit that, but it's a single little strand that we can now, it might be a little too thick, but that's okay. But you can see it's kind of pokey up there. Another thing you can do, you don't always have to use brushes to edit these things. You can use your gizmo. Okay, so let's hold down Alt and tap on the surface of the origin point of this hair, and then we can rotate it out. Here it comes. Boop. Okay, now we can rotate it down, and you can edit the thing as a whole. You know, you don't have to use brushes to try and get it in place. And you'll see you want to go and do your auto groups again to get rid of those poly groups. There you go. It's in a single strand. Grab your move elastic, and then just kind of start editing it. And then you can like get a really big brush and pull it away. So the bigger the brush, the less it will, you know, affect the flow. So it's not the best flyaway hair, but you can kind of get the idea, and it's kind of twisting and stuff. But, or you can just have it, you know, what if you wanted the hair to be embedded and originate from like in between these strands and then come out? So something like that, just to add some variety, you know. But again, if you do something like this, you're going to have to retopo it if it's going to be for a game. So just keep that in mind, right? So don't go too crazy with these flyaways, but it's something that you can add to add interest. Just kind of have it just kind of come out of there, and there you go. Okay, then you just, with that, you just kind of work your way around the back, and it's much quicker than the Dylan brush, where the Dylan brush, you know, you lay down the strands. Here, let me grab his Dylan brush. Hair tubes brush. And I'm not knocking Dylan's brush, it's great, but and I might have to adjust the strands. Yep, see how it's going from thin to thick. So let's go back in here, go to curve modifiers, straighten this out. Come on. So it doesn't go from thick to thin. There you go, and let's make it bigger. Okay, and then commit it. And then, so you can see it, turn on. So this is what you get with Dylan's brush. Let's hit auto groups. See all these strands in here? I mean, there are some that have less strands. Okay, but this is like a multi-thick. So this has, if you look at the bottom, you can see it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different strands, and those strands do have, you know, strands within strands, but it's something that you're going to have to go in there and now edit. And that's what I did with the hair in the course. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you can see that the ends are very flat. If that's the kind of look you want, just kind of it ends in flat pieces. You can come in here and add some variety by getting that move elastic brush and just kind of offsetting, you know, just to add interest or whatever. Since I have the elastic brush, it's going clear up there. Let's grab this, the regular move brush, you know, and just offset it like this. But, you know, I don't know if that's the kind of look that you want or not. And you might want to grab everything and just kind of pull it all together. Is this masked or something? I don't know why it's not. Oh, masked by polygroups on. And just kind of bring all these together into a tighter, pointier end. So it's easier to retopologize, if that makes sense. Just kind of keep bringing them together into a point. So that way it's like you're working with a clump and then it all comes to a point. That way it's a little easier to edit. But you will get these the look of these ends kind of coming together. So you really need to pack them in there tight. So, you know, so they have some resolution. Otherwise, it's going to look like straw, you know, that just like a bunch of straw or hay or something like that. It's just going to look like not finished hair. Okay, so that's kind of just some options for you. It's like you can do multiple strands like this, you can do simplified strands like this, or you can do tons of strands using the XD brush. You know, it just depends on the level of detail, and you're going to have to just use your artistic tendencies to decide how much detail you're going to actually want in the surface of your hair based on how much detail is in the rest of your character. So if you're going to have a super plain simplified character, you know, you're not going to want to have really extremely highly detailed hair. So you kind of want to match that level, match the detail level. So if that makes sense. Okay, so I just want to show you how I would continue with this other brush really quick. Just hide that and delete it so it's gone. Now, and this, what's cool is these brushes will work with dynamic subdivision turned on. So it, as long as you don't have subdivision levels, it's going to work. So I'm going to grab that Macon hairbrush, and I'm going to grab this this flat triple, and then start from, say, here, the smaller brush, and see what it looks like. And that looks a little too similar to the one I drug out before. Let's look at this. I don't know why it doesn't want to stick to the surface for me today. Let's try this wide cover. All right, I'm gonna have to pull it out. Let's go like this. Woot. All right. Saving. And I didn't draw it long enough. So, oh, that committed the other one. I don't want to commit it. I want to make it longer. Okay. I don't know what's going on. So you can see it's not just you struggling. Everybody struggles. So that's what you can do, is kind of drag it back and forth and straighten it out. And then, like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, just somewhere in the ballpark, okay? Now, this one has more interesting ends, more detailed ends, which is nice. So I'm going to commit that, then do the, split by unmasked points, and then hit my down arrow to select it, then do auto groups. So that's kind of your step-by-step what you want to do. So draw it, split it, auto group it, and there you go. And even though this is a little short, I can grab this move elastic and pull it long, make it longer. Don't be afraid. See how easy it is to use that move elastic to just go all the way down and get those strands working. It's yeah, it's easier than you think once you get in here and get working it. So you just kind of want to look at it as make sure they're not colliding, so that the flow is always continuing, and it has a direction and it has an origin. So again, we're not going to just leave it here. We're going to grab our snake hook brush and start working in that so it turns and goes down. So it actually originates from somewhere. I can't say that enough. Like this. And you can use your snake hook brush, in other areas too, if you want some more variety, but there you go. Look at all those strands. Boom. So I love that Benjamin Hale brush. I'm just going to tell you right now. It's like my new favorite thing. And I don't have to worry about, I will have to retopologize this down here for sure. But, it's not, it kind of directs you. You kind of already know where you're going to be going with it. So, and I don't know what's going on. I'm going to have to clean that up. But does that make sense, you guys? One more thing I'm going to show you is the opposite side. So if I come and I make another hair strand down this opposite side, I'm going to select this, block out again, and then I'm going to use the wide one we just used. Let's see, now it's going to give me the same. Okay. And like when you're going to make bangs, I like to make sounds when I do this. But if you're going to make, did I say bangs? I didn't mean bangs, but bangs would do the same thing. If you're going to make a part, so a spot where the hair parts, what you can do is kind of try and get a variety so when it matches up, it goes like this instead of like this. I don't know if you can see that. Let me make my screen bigger. Okay, so what I'm talking about is don't make your hair come together like that in the part. Like offset it like this. So and actually like don't have them out here like this. Actually overlap them and offset them like that. Okay? That's the best way to do it. Okay, let's see, go back. So Julian, what are you asking me? What, Z picker? Like, I don't know what Z picker is. Let's see. I'm just gonna have to commit this and then move it by hand. Okay, that's better. So I'm gonna commit this, then do the split mask points, hit my down arrow, then auto groups, there we go. Then use move elastic, big brush, push it into place. Okay, now this is what I was talking about. See how they're both coming in at the same... It's like two trains arriving at the station at the same time. You need to offset them back and forth. So let's just come in here with the snake hook brush, push them in. See, and then you want to kind of look for happy accidents. There's my other Bob Ross. For the curve to follow the curve or keep the first Z direction, it depends on the direction that you draw the curve. So if the curve does have a start and it does have an end, and so you always want to start up here and come down here because it's going to give you the end. But the reason it's not, I don't know what the reason is why it's not sticking to the surface. Like some brushes do better than others. But this one's, I don't know why it's not. I think I know what you're talking about with the stroke. Like with that, the depth modifier function. I think it's in the brush, actually. Let's see, it's depth. Like this thing, maybe? I don't know why it's not sticking to the surface. Oh, that's another thing. I'll show you guys in a second. I'm going to see if it's going to work. We're going to do a little experimenting live here. I was just talking to Steve James about this the other day. Okay, so here you go. This is, as long as it looks like it's originating out of the head and it's not just going like this, it actually curls in, you know, then you're good to go. So you kind of want to have that, you know, really curve in, okay? In picker, depth, selected Z depth. You know what? I've never used that. I've never used picker, so I don't know. It's just at 0, so it's just at the you know, the origin of the surface. It's not being pushed in or anything. Yeah, I don't know what. Is there a different thing I should be choosing? Okay. So what we're doing with this is we're kind of creating the outside hair, right? So there is also the volume and what's creating the volume and all this stuff underneath. So that's another thing you can do is you can create, like go back to this hair, you could do this tube, okay, making sure I'm on the base, and you can just do a short, kind of a short tube. Oh, let's go from the top to bottom. And it creates like this weird tube of hairs. Let's make it bigger. Oh, why isn't it showing? Maybe because my my strand isn't long enough. Let's try it. There we go. So the tube will actually create like, here, let's get it out here. It's like a fish. Woo! So it's hairs on all sides. And what you can do with this is it kind of has a nice end. You can, oh, come on. You can embed this kind of inside. Oh, come on. You got to swim it in the right direction. But maybe you can kind of get what I'm getting at, is you just kind of try and, let's do it one more time. There we go. You just try and fill that in underneath there. You know, so it's not just a glob, but you need to be careful because you're going to have to retop it if it's going to be a game character, right? So just be careful, but it's something you can do. And then you can commit it and then shorten it up so it's not so long with all these hairs. And that might be something that you can use the Dylan Ekron hairbrush for, is to use as filler. Yeah, it just depends on what you're trying to do, honestly. That's a little too long. And there's nothing saying that you can't come in and massage all these and get them looking how you want. So you can do that first, that layer underneath first, and then the layer of hair on top, because when this is all done, you're gonna want to see some hair tips underneath there. Unlike the garbage kind of that I made for for the course, I'm not the proudest of that. So let's look at this. Yeah, see this? This is not the best right here, and I did that solely for the purpose of printing, and it's hidden mostly. So it's just in at Disney we would call this bubblegum filler. So like you chew up bubblegum and then shove it in the hole. That's kind of what we would do for things that would make it hollowed out areas that you would want to fill, so it wouldn't leave pockets of resin here and there, and just areas that you wouldn't want to. You don't need to go in there and create a whole bunch of detail back underneath here, and you want to create something that you can retopologize easy and bake the maps really easy. So this is something that's very low relief. So when you're gonna bake your maps, it's gonna be very low relief, and so it doesn't need to look super pretty. Where you want it to look the best, like I said, is framing the face. So it needs to look the best here and here, and if she had bangs, they'd look the best there. Okay, and I wanted to show you something that I made right before I started this feed. So her lashes, they're just solid and they look like this, right? They're just solid pieces. And I used the Funky Bunny's lashes brush just to try it out, and I did this. So you can kind of see that's kind of an interesting little thing. And all you do is you grab it's just like the hairbrush. You just grab the lashes brush, and then you can just like make lashes. Lashes. So it's an easy way to make a whole bunch of little pieces that turn out to be lashes. So I can make the lower lashes that same way. And then you can drag the opposite direction to make them kind of curl downwards. Or you can draw them across her lip to give a mustache. So it's yeah, there's just a lot of really cool things you can do with this stuff. I want to show you, let's see. I want to show you the latest one that I did for Twitch, because I did eyebrows with the Funky Bunnies brush. Okay, so you can see these eyebrows right here, because they're really thick and bushy and kind of Gandalf looking. So I made several different strokes and kind of worked in these hairs, and it's fun because it's print friendly, And then I started to make these hairs back here, and my computer blue screened, so it died. So I couldn't fix it. I couldn't finish it. That's what I'm trying to say. I couldn't finish this, but I need to finish him off, and that's what I'm going to do after this this lesson. So anyway, do you guys have any questions on hair, like anything specific, like where you struggle? I think, like I said, I think the biggest thing for you guys is to make sure that your hair has specific sections. So like big clumps, look for the big shapes first before you get into the little details, and try and separate them into, like groups of chunks of clumps. Then just don't get crazy with details, because you're going to find yourself lost right away. And then let's see what else. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know. But I want you to go play with that Funky Bunnies brush, because it's super fun. Oh, hi. And I might redo her hair with the Funky Bunnies brush just to see what it looks like. But this one was done with the Dylan Ekron brush, all done by hand, as you saw in the course. And if I turn on auto groups, you can see all of these strands. They were all done just by hand, just kind of dragging them out. And there's still some interpenetration ones. Yeah, like this one. It's not perfect, but it printed pretty well. want to make sure that you guys are, I'm still seeing your questions. Okay, Sean has a question. For game res, how do you get the nice hair shine across the center? That is a good question, and it's not, so that is called, oh my goodness, here, let me go to my Pinterest page. Okay, so it's right here. This is like the bungee method, the current gen of hair. It's actually a shader that does it, and Blizzard uses it. A lot of games use it, but it's actually the type of shader that you put on these strands. So I don't know. And it does use alpha. So see, these are alpha strands. So you take these alpha strips and you run them down the strands. So these have UVs. These are just called alpha strips. And these alpha strips are typically made in some other software like Maya or 3D Studio Max or something like that. Not typically made in ZBrush. Then you have to run UVs down the length, and then you put alpha on them like this. And then it's, gosh, those shaders have a specific name that makes them shine across that, that highlight ridge that you're talking about. So, yeah, I haven't gotten into it too much. I'm trying to look for another example of it. Anyway, yeah, it's a super good question, but I can't remember the name of it. But that's how you do it. You do it with hair strips like that, and it's a shader thing. So, let's see. And then if you have any other questions, you know, feel free to like type them in with on the back end of the, well, I think you can actually add comments to this video after I post it, so you can ask them here, and I can try and get to them. There's this really cool Grizz and Norm one, so you can see it, they're telling you how it all originates from a certain point and then falls in cascades. Then that's one thing to think about, is the weight of the hair. Like, where is the, because hair does have weight to it. And so for example, like this one, how it's originating from here, and then it actually has weight, and then it's getting pulled back up into this bun. So it's just, you have to think about, you know, how is the hair hanging, and how is it weighing on the head. Also, there's a lot less cuts, separations in the hair along the crown of the head, and as it cascades, it gets more and more separations as it goes down, because the hair is getting loose, and maybe it's like sitting on someone's shoulder, and that's causing it to separate. But where it's hanging on the head, like down, that's a lot of weight, and it tends to like even the hairs out up top on the crown. And so that's one thing you'll notice. I'm trying to think of what else I can say about hair. Let's see. Corinne, sort of related, sort of not, but I wanted to add hair strands to clothes to give that fur look. What's the best way to do that for a game character? So again, for Disney Infinity, like Luxo, Luxo, is that his name? The bear, the pink bear, is that his name? So we actually had a fur shader for that, and it was written by coders, and that would be applied to the surface of the texture, and anywhere we would tell it, it was a black and white map, so anywhere that was full white would have the longest fur. And what it was it was actually a pixel shader. So it had like 4 levels of pixels, and the pixels would create each fur strand, and it's just like adding fuzz to a character. You're saying, okay, just this fuzz is only fuzzy here, here, and here based on the map, the map that you were saying, that, you know, where the fuzz happens or whatever. So it was all programmatically driven. I can't speak today. Yeah. I hope that helps. Okay. Ambra, how would you handle braids? I try and look for a braid insert multi-mesh brush. Honestly, I cheat. I cheat. So, here, I'll show you. IMM ZBrush braid. There's a ton of them that people have made. There's a lot of them out there. And so this is a good one right here. You just want something that's super duper basic that'll get you to what you want. So you want to look for the simple ones. And there are a whole bunch. People like to get complex with them. You don't need the complex shapes. You just get a really simple one. And oh, you can use nanomesh too. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Steve did this one on curve straps. But so my friend Brad Bolender, he actually made one for Tangled. So let's see. Tangled. So this big one, this big huge braid, he actually went into Maya and made an insert multi-mesh brush and made this braid, and then he came in and he cut in these little cuts just with that with the brush that's kind of like this chisel brush. So this chisel brush, you can add detail in the surface. So let me show you really quick. I think you've seen these, the chisel brush and how it works. You can save a morph target now with this chisel brush. So store a morph target, and then you can just cut down the surface and add detail that way. That's how Brad added the detail to those big braids. Yeah, I have not used nanomesh for hair. But what's cool about saving a morph target with this chisel brush is you can start and stop, and then you can get in this area and it'll continue without causing you any grief, which is really nice. That's new. That's fairly new. 4R8. You can continue, and you can go back across itself, and it's not going to cause any grief. Anyway, pretty cool. So that's another thing you can do if you have like just a helmet hair. That's what I did with Tinkerbell. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can. I can't. So with Tinkerbell's hair, it was just like a big sphere, and I did some cuts and broke it up into chunks. Then I did some tertiary details with the chisel brush, and I just cut some lines in. And that's kind of an easy way to add detail without adding more strands. I prefer to add more strands because it's more interesting, but if you want to keep it a little cleaner and, you know, that Disney Infinity look, then just kind of drag a couple of those lines down there. And then one way to do it too, you don't want to cut the line right down the middle all the way, because that's going to make it look mechanical and boring. So what I typically do is I'll start from one side and then sweep it to the outside like this, and then kind of back in like that. So then it kind of cuts across it and adds more detail and interest. Or you can go the other way, start from this side and kind of cut across it and then come back down. That's a little less interesting, but it's something you can do to add some variety. Just as long as you're cutting across it and you're not mechanically going down like one side or the other all the way. Because what you're looking for is characteristics, like variety and interest. Like, stay away from making it look man-made. That's what I see most often in a lot of the student sculpts, is every single strand is the exact same width and the exact same length, and if it has lines in it, they're all just like mechanically dropped in there. So anyway, okay, do you guys have anything else? Does that help you guys out a lot? I hope it helps in your adventures of making stylized hair. It's really it comes down to experience and practice and just kind of working the flow out and how it hangs and how it goes, and You know, try. You can also do. You can see that I did that with these strands. Is you can do that cut across the hair, so you can make a thick strand and then cut across it with a smaller strand, the same way you would make a stroke. So just to add variety and interest, and also look for thin to thick to thin again. You know, just thicks and thins, just ways to add variety so your hair lengths aren't all the same parallel thickness all the way down. So you want to like start from thick and maybe have some that go to thin, and then some from thin that actually go to thick. There's different ways, you know, just look for variety, look for interest, look for flow. So yeah, no worries. Thanks for joining me. I hope it helps you guys out a ton. I can't wait to see what you guys do with it and where you take it and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, super fun. And if you like this kind of lesson, maybe we'll do more like it. I like when you guys have questions and ask them live. So super cool. All right, definitely clarified a lot of doubts. Yeah, no worries. No worries. Okay, well guys, I think that'll about do it. Enjoy the rest of your Friday and the rest of your weekend, and look forward to seeing your awesome hair sculpts coming up. And one thing I want to say is there's that Retrogasm contest that's going on right now that's being put on by I Has Toys by Troy and Lena, and I highly suggest joining that if you have the time. And basically what it is, it's they're wanting you to go back and make if an old game character, what they would look like in the current gen systems of today. And it's just a really cool contest. If I had time, I would do it. But it's really cool, and you could get some good feedback and stuff like that. So yep, you're welcome, guys. I love doing this stuff. I really do. And I would love to do this with stylized anatomy. You know, just going through kind of a body piece by piece and telling you the tips and tricks and things that kind of what to look for and that kind of thing. So it's something that's on my mind, a stylized anatomy. It would be an entire module, and we'd have to stretch it out over several weeks, but I think that would be something that you guys would benefit from, because I see a lot of people struggling with anatomy, and that would be a big one. So anyway, oh, hey Brian, how would you incorporate Sculptress into hair? That is a fantastic question. Fantastic. So thank you for asking that. I will show you. Now, Sculptress is dangerous for new students. So I'm going to just throw that out there right now. The Sculptress Pro mode, it can be dangerous. And the reason why is because it will allow you to add detail very quickly, and you can get yourself into a mess very quickly. So, and I'm going to show you why. Right now, these strands, these front strands, right now I can edit them really easily, okay, because they have subdivision levels and they have low resolution geometry, and they're in different groups. So I can watch me grab that Move Elastic brush, and I can edit them and move them and keep things clean. As soon as you, let's see, I think I'm going to, let me turn this down one more. So I'm going to turn this to level 2, delete lower, delete higher. You cannot have subdivision levels when you use Sculptress mode. So I'm going to switch to this detail brush, turn Sculptress mode on, and I'm going to show you what happens as soon as I'm going to actually use that chisel brush. So if I use that chisel brush, why isn't it on? Hold on a second. Maybe chisel doesn't work. Okay. Yeah, there we go. So as soon as I drag my brush, look at all the detail it adds. And see this active points right here? Watch what happens as I drag. The active points just start cranking up, tick, 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 like the deficit. Just start to crank up, bump, 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 as you drag. So let's see. Let me turn up the intensity so you can actually see what I'm doing. Whoa. There we go. So to make that cut, it's actually adding a whole bunch of geometry. Now, since I have that, it's not as easy to edit, because if I go and grab this move elastic or just move, and I turn on topological, and I try to move this, it's going to start stretching out these polys and just being really weird, and it's not as editable as it was. Okay, so it's nice when Sculptris Pro mode is nice for experimentation. Like if you're just going to start, if you've seen those kind of those sphere challenges that I did a couple where you just start with a sphere and you build up with Sculptris Pro mode. Let me see if I have any. Oh, here's sphere challenge. Let me see. So this is the chicken I made. Look at what a mess he is. Super messy. This is not how I typically, this is not how I teach you how to build characters. The reason why is because if you look at this closely, it's not the best. See how it's not as clean? The surface is not very clean. I would rather have gone in here with primitives and build this out just like I show you guys. If you do this with Sculptris Pro, it becomes very messy. I mean, there are some things that are fun. It's a blast to use because it's the most like clay that you can experience digitally. So it's just like digital clay. So it's really great to experiment with, to build up, but eventually you're going to have to retopologize it if you're going to use it for production. You're going to, you're just going to kind of struggle with it a little bit. So it's kind of it's fun, but just be careful with it and don't go crazy with it. And you can detail out your hair with it, but it also gets into dangerous territory when you have a lot of detail, because then ZBrush will start to chug. It'll start to go, whoa, that's too many triangles. We're gonna crash now. So you have to continually decimate your model so ZBrush can keep up with you when you're adding more and more triangles. So yeah, it's a great question. So thanks for asking. But for hair and for detailing hair, honestly, I would kind of stay away from it unless you're going to use it for block out and you're just trying to get the flow, and you just want to build it up and kind of preview your strokes. You can absolutely do that. But for the production, just only take it so far, and then continue on from there. Like lay your new strands on top of it, or retopologize it, something like that. That'll help you out better. So, okay. Hope that helps. Okay, I almost never still use Sculptris Pro. Really hard to use it without making a mess. Yep, it's dangerous. It's fun. It's fun. It's like playing with matches. It's fun, but it's dangerous. So, anyway, yeah, you can use it for realistic stuff a lot, but it only goes so far, even with realism. It's the best use of it, honestly, in my opinion, is just like artistic sculpture, where like if you're going to do an anatomy study or something like that, and it's just going to be like something that you would see in marble or cast in bronze or something that just looks like really rough surfaced sculpture, like that you'd see in a park or something like that, just like Renaissance type sculpture, just really, really fine, messy details. It's great for that. It's really good. It's like I said, it's like sculpting for real. But if you're trying to keep nice, clean characters that are stylized for games, I would not dive into Sculptris Pro. Not too much. Okay, guys, we're hitting 1 o'clock now. Yeah, we've gone for a while. So thank you very, very much for joining me. And once again, I will see you in the community, and I can't wait to see some more hairstyles from you guys. We'll see you if it helps at all. I really, really hope so, because I can tell you guys are struggling, and I just want to help you out. So anyway, thanks guys, and have a great day, and we'll see you next time. And we'll probably do a feedback session next Friday. So, all right, have a good one, guys. Take care. I'll let it run for a minute. All right, see you.